Okay, just like earlier today? Okay, perfect. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you. There we go. Thank you very much. That's everyone wants to see you. I think we have a form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll go ahead and take, let's see here. It's 7:03, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. At this point, Ben's not coming. No, Ben is not. He's called out. Okay, we'll get going here. If I get everyone, if you're able to stand, that's fine, but we're going to go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able to stand, that would be great. We'll go ahead and do that now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. And let's see here. We have all council members unmute themselves. Just the council members, please. I've got Dave, I've got Janice, I've got Monty, I've got Mrs. Holland. Carol, go ahead and unmute yourself. There you go. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take roll now.
Councilmember Rounds?
Councilmember Rounds?
Here. Councilmember Plaza?
Councilmember Plaza?
Here. Councilmember Holland?
Councilmember Holland? Councilmember Holland? I think you're muted. No, she's here. She's just muted though.
Councilmember Graham?
Councilmember Graham? Here.
Councilmember Chapman?
Councilmember Chapman? I don't see him on the call. I think he might be having some technical.
All right, we'll go back to him.
We'll go back to him. Okay.
Councilmember Smith?
Councilmember Smith?
Councilmember Fredericks?
Councilmember Fredericks. Councilmember Fredericks called out this evening. At this time, I'll accept a motion to excuse Mr. Fredericks from the meeting. Moved by Councilmember Rounds, second by Councilmember Plaza. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Holland?
Holland. To excuse Mr. Fredericks. Councilmember Holland. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Aye.
Plaza?
Mr. Plaza? Aye.
Smith?
Mr. Smith?
Chapman?
Gotcha. Mr. Chapman's not on the call.
Graham?
Mrs. Graham?
Rounds?
Councilmember Rounds? All right, Councilmember Fredericks has been excused. And, okay, at this time, I'm going to have everybody, since we are having some sound issues, it sounds like I'll have everyone just mute their screens. And when your name is called, unmute and give your testimony or feedback, and then your and or vote, okay? Does that help, Mrs. Holland? Can you give me a thumbs up? Does that work? Okay, perfect. Do I still sound like I'm in a tunnel? Perfect, thank you. All right, this time I have one proclamation this evening, and it's for the Fair Housing Month, April 6, 2020, whereas the Fair Housing Act enacted on April 11, 1968, enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, and disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to affirmatively further fair housing in their communities. And whereas the City of Woodland is committed to the mission of intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all, and whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities, and whereas more than 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists and many communities remain segregated, and whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunities are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now therefore, I, William A. Flynn, resolve that the City of Woodland does hereby declare the month of April 2020 as Fair Housing Month, in the City of Woodland as an inclusive community committed to fair housing and to promoting appropriate activities by private and public entities to provide and advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of the City of Woodland, dated the 6th day of April 2020. All right, at this time, we're moving on to citizen communication for items not on the agenda. And I know I have at least one on screen, and I'll go ahead and let you unmute yourself now. State your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Mrs. Miller. Are you not speaking this evening? Okay, gotcha. All right. You just unmuted yourself, Mrs. Miller. Did you want to say anything? I can't hear you at all. I've got a picture of it. You're muted. I'm not getting anything. Okay, now you're unmuted. There you are. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Seeing nobody else on the call, I'm moving on to items on the agenda. Not seeing anyone else on the call. Come to the portion for agenda approval. There we go. I've got Councilmember Plaza and Councilmember Rounds. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Graham?
Councilmember Graham.
Aye. Councilmember Rounds?
Councilmember Rounds.
Councilmember Smith?
Councilmember Smith.
Aye. Councilmember Plaza?
Councilmember Plaza.
Councilmember Holland?
Councilmember Holland.
Councilmember Chapman?
Councilmember Chapman is still not on the screen yet. Okay. Agenda is passed 5-0. Reports of City Council this evening. Mrs. Graham? Good. All right. That's what I like to hear. All right. There's not much to report on, I don't think, except the clubs are not meeting at this point, so, and everyone should be in lockdown unless you're going to the grocery store or the doctor at this point, so. Reports of Standing Committee, Finance and General Government. Is that Mrs. Rounds?
Smith.
Oh, Councilmember Smith, I'm sorry. Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get you.
Oh, it's fine. Human Resources? Mr. Boyce?
Sure. So, Cooper's Chapter and Browns, we only have one item on the agenda. It's not a committee policy, it's on the agenda this evening. And that was a recommendation to approve to city council. That was the only item of business today.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce. Looks like the next meeting is going to be on the 4th of May. For Human Resources and Finance in general will also be on the 4th of May as well. I know that we've extended our closure or non-getting together, stay-at-home order till the 4th, I believe it is, of May. So we'll see if that ends up being an email meeting or go-to meeting, or if that will be in person as well. Reports of advisory committees. I'm assuming, Mrs. Graham, you haven't been to Downtown Woodland Revitalization or Chamber of Commerce lately.
Well, we haven't more especially on downtown or to also that if anybody needs anything, our executive director is thinking, has rerouted our business center so it has a call
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay. All right, thank you, Mrs. Graham. Ms. Coleman, anything for DWR?
No, the only thing that I'm doing is trying to take care of our website, and I know this grant, I believe, is for something to be our website.
Okay, perfect, thank you very much. And Mrs. Rounds, I'm assuming you haven't been out to the Council of Governments unless you did a Zoom meeting of some sort? Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, moving on to reports of city officers, I'm going to let council know and those watching at home that I've asked our executive staff to limit their comments this evening and just kind of stick to business so we can get in and get out. The governor's direction has been essential business only, so we're trying to follow that. But I know that there's a few of the executive staff that do have some comments they need to make this evening. So understand that this is not going to be a normal report out where you get a long laundry list of things that are going on. So moving on with that, COVID-19 update for the city. Most of you know that early on, I think the city of Woodland was a week ahead of messaging out to the community long before Dallas County got together, which I'm extremely proud of, and everyone jumped to action and everyone has been really conscious of making sure that they're cleaning their workstations and communicating with the public by answering the phone and pushing utility payments online and those types of things. We do have a workshop this evening to discuss some of the things that were being affected right now, and looking for some direction and maybe some consensus from council on how we as a group should move forward. So we'll talk about that in a bit. The janitor's been out, so on the agenda this evening, we do have some emergency ask for janitorial services due to the fact that a janitor has been out for a couple of weeks due to their own illness and family illness both. So that's why the ask is there. Which is good that they're staying away when the family member was sick. But we do have a need for some janitorial services. So we have been attempting to take out our trash and clean the toilets ourselves, but it's becoming a little bit difficult, so we just need some help. A lot of the city staff, a handful of them, I shouldn't say a lot, a handful of them are working from home at this point to make sure that city functions are going and trying to create that social distancing within the departments or within the buildings, which has been good. They're kind of rotating through. Work that can be done at home is being done at home, and then work that's being done in the office is being done there as well. So far, there really hasn't been a hiccup to the way that the city's running at this point, except for the fact that people just can't come in the door. But we're still available by phone, we're still available by email, and we're putting out constant updates out on the website. Over at Public Works, we put some procedures in place when we finally had to make the hard decision to shut down the playground equipment. Although the parks are still open, per the governor's order, he's saying get out and exercise, go for your walks, do what you need to do. But because this virus lives on equipment, we just felt it necessary to shut down that equipment so the children aren't transmitting back and forth, or adults are getting out there as well. So the parks are still open, it's just the equipment shut down. So folks can still go and get out and walk, especially down there in Horseshoe Lake. We're seeing a lot of folks that are down there utilizing the space, but they're also utilizing the safe distance practices and keeping away that 6 feet, only sticking with family members, but staying high from the distance, which is good. That folks are paying attention and taking it seriously. Most of our events have been canceled through April 24th, which was our date, but with the extension, we are now canceled through May 4th. So anyone that was using the community center had an event in the park. Most of you probably saw the notice that Lilac Days has been canceled, which is extremely disappointing because they bring 15,000 plus people into town over the course of a couple of weeks and spend a lot of tax dollars inside Woodland that our businesses desperately need to be shopping at. So we are continuing operations as normal. You see the Public Works guys, they're running around in single-man trucks, cars. So we're no longer doing two-man vehicles there. They've been taught some safe practices so that when they do have to do a two-man job, they are wearing masks and gloves and trying to create that social distancing when possible. I do want to give a shout out to some folks from Saturday. There was a request from Safeway that they needed some masks for their employees. I could see that coming down as a potential issue and they're not able to get the resources that they need for masks. They reached out to me and said, hey, could you help us out? And we've had some local businesses come to the aid. We've got Grateful Orthodontics that went in. He's closed right now, but he's grabbed some of his masks and dropped about 150 of those off over to Safeway for the employees to keep them safe. And then also we've had a sewing, I don't want to call it a sweatshop, but we've got some folks over in Merriweather, homeowners that have gotten together with some skills to include Monica Ream, Shirley Kluge, the Jenkins family. They've all, I think they're going to end up giving us about 200 of the cloth masks that they've been sewing that we can distribute to some of the other stores. Spruce, Jamie Bond over at Spruce put together about 50 of them and got those over to the Camp Food grocery outlet. For their employees, he was asking for about 90. So as we're going through town, I've been calling and checking in on some folks. I dropped off a box of 50 to Dollar Tree today to help them out. So if you hear any needs that we can assist, we still have a small stockpile. With that said, Safeway has helped out the city quite a bit today. They donated about 4,800 sanitary wipes that they normally use for the carts, and they had a little bit set aside, and they gave those to us along with a piece of sanitizer, which was fantastic. So we're getting that out to the employees too. We've had a little bit of an issue trying to get those resources into the city to help keep our workstations clean, make sure we're not passing it back and forth. We're also in constant communication with the county, both counties, Clark and Cowlitz, and our own Chief Kelly is the Woodland liaison. So Chief, I'm going to kind of pitch to you right now because I know that I haven't talked about the cases, but I'll let you speak to that if you're okay with that.
Sure. We have cases in Calhoun County. Of those, there are positive company people that covered from that. So it's not a lot of information on that. We're trying to people working on that kind of stuff. Right now, we have one person in the hospital. Everybody else is not home. You're treating yourself there. You're putting medication, that kind of stuff. And that
join in here real quick with Mr. Chapman is on the line with us real quick here. Mr. Chapman, are you there? Okay, perfect. All right, I'm going to mute you again. I just want to make the group know that you are here, and I know that there were some technical issues there. Does anybody have any questions for Chief Kelly in relation to the Emergency Operations Center at Cowles County?
I do have a question for you, Mayor.
Mrs. Graham, go ahead.
The agreement that May was canceled.
No, I said through May 4th.
Oh, okay.
No, all events have been canceled through May 4th at this point.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, because I was wondering about the meeting.
No, I said Lilac Days. Lilac Days finally had to pull their event. Yeah.
As far as my understanding, we are having a huge turnout, and,
Right.
still dealing with issues, so.
We're pushing forward though. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Boyce?
Right, so, mostly, what we've been doing the last few weeks has been related to virus signature, ways for people to access, the city server, and whatnot remotely. Things are going fairly well, and, I also wanted to mention the city council retreat April 25th, because that's before the open update. We'll Sunday to reschedule that. So, just something to know. I've also been participating in the incident management team meetings that are 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. All the cities are participating along with the county and other entities such as the sheriff's office, public health, and whatnot. So it's a good way to make sure everyone's on the same page. It's been working pretty well so far, and we'll continue to participate. So right now, that's our report. Any questions? I'm happy to take.
Any questions for Mr. Boyce? All right, thank you, Mr. Boyce. Mr. Randolph? Check this out. Nope. Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Mrs. Rep?
I will defer my report to the published documents, as we can't hear.
Okay, Mrs. Rip is deferring her report to the published document since she's here, but if she joins in on the meeting, I think she'll kick me off. No, I'm kind of recording, so, I'm just kidding. So please defer to her report. If you have any questions, please reach out to Mrs. Rip. Mr. Kelly, or Chief Kelly? Thank you. Mr. Jackson, or Chief Jackson, sorry. Thank you, Chief Jackson. See anybody? Mr. Goddard? Looks like you might be trying to talk. Let me turn my hair. You're really breaking up on us. No, it was really spotty until I have no report. Your mouth's moving, but nothing's coming out. Attached document, okay. Perfect. Please see Mr. Goddard's attached document and reach out if you have questions. Or reach out to myself, Mr. Boyce, or Mr. Goddard, we can try to get that answer for you. Chief Coleman? Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I'm laughing at Mrs. Miller. I'm laughing at Mrs. Miller. She had a husband and a kid jump up behind her. Okay, thank you. Questions for Ms. Coleman from anyone? Okay, not seeing any. Moving on to consent items. I got Councilmember Rounds and Councilmember Plaza. Okay, Mrs. Rounds will take second. Plaza, will the clerk please take the vote? Councilmember Plaza.
Smith.
Councilmember Smith.
Graham.
Councilmember Graham.
Chapman.
Councilmember Chapman.
Holland.
Councilmember Holland.
Round.
Councilmember Rounds. All right, consent items have passed 7-0. Moving on to action items. Action item H, authorize mayor to sign amendment number 2 for contract with Kittleson and Associates to study exit 21. Moved by Councilmember Rounds, seconded by Councilmember Graham. Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Graham. Further discussion? All right. clerk please take the roll?
Chapman?
Councilmember Chapman.
Plaza?
Councilmember Plaza.
Smith?
Councilmember Smith.
Mullen?
Councilmember Holland.
Round?
Councilmember Rounds.
Graham?
Councilmember Graham. Action item H is passed, 7-0. Moving on to action item I, adopt ordinance number 1460, first quarter 2020 budget amendments, first and final reading.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Smith.
Look, I mean, it needs to be done.
Councilmember Rounds.
I agree.
Further discussion? All right, seeing none, will the clerk please take the roll?
Chapman?
Councilmember Chapman.
Round?
Councilmember Rounds.
Smith?
Councilmember Smith.
Graham?
Councilmember Graham.
Mullen?
Councilmember Holland.
Plaza?
Councilmember Plaza. All right, action item I has passed. The time is now 7:35, and we'll be going into a workshop. So during this workshop, I think how we'll do this is I'll just kind of call you out by name and put you on the spot a little bit if you've got comment that you'd like to, so we're not talking over each other. So first up is utility and credit card fee waiver and providing a credit on the next billing cycle. This came about when we started the closure of City Hall and not allowing payments to be brought in. We're encouraging online payment system, and with our online payment system, we have a fee that's associated with that. So if you pay with credit card, it's $4.95. You can do an e-check, which is going to cost the end user 95 cents. Is there another fee? This is correct.
That's it.
That's it, just the two. So basically that, before this process came about, the end user was absorbing that with their utility bill.
It says EFT, so electronic checks.
Oh, electronic checks.
Like online payments.
Online payments are,
Through their own bank.
through their own bank, don't cost anything. So basically you go to your bill pay on your online banking and send it over for free. We don't charge for that service. The bank may, but we don't. We don't charge to accept that. So one of the things that has prompted the conversation was, do we eliminate that fee? Well, if we eliminate that fee, it's going to be passed on to the ratepayers, but it's not as simple as a $4.95 and a 95-cent fee. We actually have to pay a percentage of all the dollars that are brought in when we use that fee. So it may be $4.95 on the end user right now, where it might come back to us and it might be $16, $17 out of our pocket, or out of the enterprise fund. So with the encouragement of trying to get folks to pay online, we're giving that credit back on the next billing cycle. So they're not being punished because we're closed. We're trying to work with folks and make sure that we're providing a safe and comfortable environment, and then also still allowing them to get their bills paid. We haven't seen a huge uptick in this yet, but our billing is coming out at the end of the month. So I think hopefully we'll see a lot of users using the service, and my hope is that once we're done with this emergency, that we can still continue this practice of doing this to encourage online payment. It streamlines billing for City Hall. It eliminates larger deposits because it's all done electronically. So there's a lean process, if you will, that is put into place with this. Currently, right now, we've had, since we've put this program into place, we've had 64 credit cards come through, 12 over the phone with a credit card, and 18 electronic fund transfer, and that's through the bank system, the EFT. The EFT is through the bank. So folks are using it. So we're refunding about 94 folks those charges that were spent online. So we'll see as we go through into next month, when we get closer to May 7th, May 15th, I think is when the next bill is due, and those will be coming out. I think I'm hoping that we see an uptick in that. Just it's going to help with processing it and make it easier for folks to pay. we'll start with Councilmember Graham. Do you have any thoughts, comments, or concerns with the credit card fee waiver program at all?
No, I don't think so. They, I think that, it's good to get like that everything from the educated because, you know, you can go online and you can pay and whatnot, and you can offer, something else, so it's probably that's where we're going to go.
Okay.
Direct debit is zero, what is
And we also have a zero cost fee to do direct debit, which is every month on the same day, we go and we pull out whatever the bill is, or every 2 months, people can say, hey, just pull whatever my bill is, just go ahead and take it from my account.
applications under documents and on the website.
And that can be found on the website for folks that want to sign up for that, those of you that are watching at home or watching online. I will say though too, before we get back further into the next council member here, is that we've also put some envelopes outside of City Hall for folks that don't have checks or a debit card or credit card, so that they can put cash in and drop it in our drop box. And the front office staff there is collecting that, I think hourly at this point, I think, or
2 or 3 times.
two to four times a day they're out there checking that, collecting those and processing those payments for folks. So those that are overpaying with cash, they're just getting credit on the next bill because we're not going to be changed right now. But if that's something that's easier for folks, they still have the ability to do that. We're not forcing folks to do it online. We're asking that they do it online, but they still have the traditional method of dropping in the box. So, Mr. Chapman? Okay. Councilmember Holland? Thanks for saying that. I know I got some pushback from at least one promising things, but I think the end user, I'm hoping that this will be something that we can continue doing again, so I appreciate that. Councilmember Rounds. Thank you. Mr. Smith?
No, I don't think this is that. I ultimately do have a credit card for it, so I'm just getting involved in some yes at this point, because I don't think I do it, but if there is a way to go back and probably make it that way, then we can try that, but it's not.
Thank you. Mr. Plaza? That's correct. Yeah, we're not sending out a bunch of checks, it's just gonna be a credit on the next
We're
bill.
running the report daily to see what's paid.
So, and we're, Mrs. Rip just informed me, they're running the report daily to see who's paid. Mr. Boyce, do you have anything to add to this portion of the conversation?
I think it's necessary at this point in time. Here's it, one of the transactions on recent staff is so we should consider making this permanent. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce. Any further comments on this topic from council at all? Mr. Plaza? To go beyond the emergency, you mean? Yes, that's, I don't believe, I think the only thing that we're asking you to take action on this evening is just during the emergency status. Is that correct?
I would say that if the council governor's declaring the period, that's the period we would go.
Okay, gotcha. So Mrs. Rick just informed me that, yes, just one moment, Mr. Smith. I see you. This will go through the governor's timeline. So if he's saying that the stay-at-home order is over, on June 1st, we will stop that credit and then bring this conversation back to council to further the program if that's what council decides. Did that answer your question? Okay, perfect. Mr. Smith? I think when we look down the road, I think we'll have a better idea this next billing cycle of what that could be. So we'll have some data to bring back to say if the council wants to continue the program or not. Although I believe that there's huge benefit not only for the ratepayers but also for the office staff as well. When we start talking about taking payments over the counter, that's going to be less foot traffic coming into City Hall. Which is going to free them up to be able to continue doing the tasks that they have on their plate. But absolutely, we'll have some data that we can bring back to you. Mr. Boyce, do you have anything else to add to that?
We do have some numbers. So we refunded 94 charges, and that's total $415.20.
Okay. And are these just late payers? Okay, so these are these folks were on the list for shut-off, Mrs. Rick is informed me. So, somebody asked a question about the dollar figure, so $415 so far since we kind of started this emergency process and asking folks to pay online.
And we did not do shut-off.
And to clarify, we did not do shut-offs. But water has not been shut off to anyone at this time, so we're still evaluating. I think that's part of this conversation. Workshop. I'm looking at action items, that's why. Perfect. Okay, that's going to be the next topic of conversation. So, any more discussion or thoughts on that? Okay. Moving on to number 2 here on the workshop. Utility payment arrangements and April late charge waiver if payment arrangements are fulfilled. So currently right now, every city in Cowles County is kind of on a similar program but no consistency through the county. Some folks are not charging late fees at all on utility payments. Some are still charging the late fees, which at this point we are, just due to the fact this last billing cycle it was long before the emergency started. So that's part of the conversation we want to have with you this evening. And then also when you start talking about payment arrangements, I'm going to let Mr. Boyce take this one up.
Okay, so, we're trying to work with folks that are having trouble with payment arrangements. We've had some discussions with other cities in the county, like Mayor said, it's a little bit different depending on which city you're talking about. Most cities
Mr. Plaza? Mr. Smith?
We're just going to trying to figure out how far I can go to make up the bills that they're not enough to pay. Yeah, that's part of it. So, even if I'll pass up one more, we want to make sure that we're meeting properly to ensure ultimate payment to the city. There are other issues too, such as usually have restrictions on legal plans, how often you can enter those. Right now, we're being lenient on that, and allowing anyone who's just having trouble paying ensure that they enter a payment plan, whether or not they have one within the last year. So we're trying to get a sense for the term. We're trying to get a sense for whether or not city council support of such arrangements. And we want to make sure you understand what we're doing right now. And if you want that to continue, or if you want to amend that in the future, that's what we're looking for.
Okay. Mrs. Rounds?
Well, I think that is what we're doing. I'm legal authority, but I have no problem with how you're trying to work the system right now.
Mr. Chapman? Thank you, sir. Mrs. Graham? what we're talking about with payment plans. There was something that was brought up during the premise meeting. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Oh, yeah, that's under a different action item. That was on the consent agenda.
Oh, it was on the consent agenda. Okay.
Then pulled off the consent agenda.
No, it got approved. Oh, sorry, Mr. Smith, go ahead.
I think there was supposed to call it consensus.
Yeah.
So, if it's done at this point.
That's the kind of one.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I missed it too. It was a $3,000 late fee.
Looking for the voucher here.
It was item, F.
F. So it was consent item F this evening. That's been approved. And that was
I mean, I guess you can still talk about it, you're talking about late.
you can still talk about it. You can still talk about it.
They collected it from the in that case, the property management collected it from the residents,
Okay.
but they paid it late.
Okay. So Mrs. Ritt was just making a statement here that they collected the money for the utility, but then they ended up paying it late. So
It's on the property.
really, it's on the property management folks, but what we all know is going to happen though, we're going to take that fee and at some point they're going to start passing it along to the folks that are already renting at the park, making it a bigger hardship. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one to talk about, especially when we have a repeat offender. Yeah. Okay.
Well, maybe the next time this happens,
Yeah, and I'm sorry I didn't catch that, or I would have mentioned it during my report to remind folks of the poll to discuss, so I'll try to do a better job if we are still in this situation. That this might be the new norm. Okay. Yeah. Anything,
Yeah,
am I
yeah.
missing anything, Mr. Boyce?
So the only way to
Oh.
fix that would be a motion to reconsider.
Yeah, the only way to fix that, okay. It could, Mrs. Holliday, it could be fixed with, when we go back into regular meeting status, a motion to reconsider, to bring that back forward for discussion and a new vote. Just throwing that out there. Just throwing that out there. Motion for reconsider. All right. Okay, moving on to the third item, a telecommuting policy, emergency COVID-19 response. I know that the HR committee discussed that this evening. Does anyone have anything to add? Or Mr. Boyce, do you want to jump in on that?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, the city previously didn't have a telecommuting policy. So when this came down and the governor made his orders, we looked at what other cities had on the books and came up with what you see now. Basically, for management can decide whether an employee can request management decides whether or not they're going to work from home.
did have to mute everyone. I think we're getting a bunch of feedback there on Mr. Boyd, so there I am. Sorry, I had to mute everyone. We're getting a lot of feedback on Mr. Boyd, so Mrs. Rounds, it looks like you're back in, so I'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, I think the question might be, so I'm glad that the office staff go around and something together, and it looks like we have to move on, like, make sure what we're supposed to do, stay in a safe environment.
Thank you. Mrs. Holland. Oh, right. Thank you. Mr. Smith? Thank you. Mrs. Graham?
It sounds like sometimes we have as much to that, so it sounds like there must be a place where we do that. Extra hours,
Thank you. Mr. Chapman, you are on mute. You'll need to unmute yourself. Mr. Plaza. For now, Mr. Boyce, go ahead. That's your question, Mr. Plaza? We'd like to keep it the normal. Okay. We'd like to keep it normal course of business, a previous emergency. This is something that, it will be in place when needed. We did have one employee before this occurred that had a family member that needed some medical attention for long periods of time, so we were able to accommodate that need, still checking in the office and checking in with the exec department head there. So as an as-needed basis, I think once we come out of the emergency is what Mr. Boyce is getting at. Here we go. Mr. Chapman.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see a different market, generally everyone well, don't get it market, kind of hard to get it. Not like, meeting,
Right.
go back.
Okay, thank you. Anything anything else on telecommuting policy? Okay. Report on city facility closures and parks. I kind of covered it during my report. Does anybody have questions about city property closures or the roping off of the play structures in our parks?
I think it's a necessity if we're going to try and keep them apart and not have non-events. So I think that I'm glad that it's still walk and use the park down with that. I think it's a necessity as far as working together as a society.
Thank you. All right. Seeing nothing else, going to workshop. Anybody have, before we do that, does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns in relation to how we're operating or moving forward right now during this emergency?
I'd like to just speak on the commercial lake park.
Oh, yes, Ms. Coleman.
So in regards to commercial lake park, we actually, I have a sign specifically for walking out. And I think we have those installed by Friday, so people know that the distance is traveling back to our commercial lake park. So those will be installed in the map of our end distance, for how far we travel from our park. So that might be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the time is 8:08. We're coming out of workshop. Moving on to action item J, authorize utility credit card fee waiver and credit on next bill cycle and utility payment arrangements. April late charge waiver and payment arrangements are fulfilled. Moved by Councilmember Plaza, second by Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Plaza. Okay. Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Okay, seeing no hands waving or anyone talking, will the clerk please take the roll on action item J?
Councilmember Graham?
Councilmember Graham. You're muted, Mrs. Graham. I can see you talking. J is in John. Let's see. Yes, J is in John. That's okay.
Plaza.
Count. Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Graham. Councilmember Plaza.
Holland.
Councilmember Holland.
Rounds.
Councilmember Rounds.
Chapman.
Councilmember Chapman.
Smith.
Councilmember Smith. Okay, action item J has passed. Moving on to action item K, authorize mayor to sign telecommunications policy regarding emergency/COVID-19 response. Moved by Councilmember Rounds, second by Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Smith. Further discussion? Okay. Seeing nothing else, will the clerk please take the roll on action item K?
Councilmember Smith.
Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Hollis.
Brown.
Councilmember Rounds.
Brown.
Councilmember Graham.
Plaza.
Councilmember Plaza.
Chapman.
Councilmember Chapman. All right, action item K has passed. Anything else for the good of the order? Mrs. Holland? Action item.
Motion to, relook at that motion.
Move to reconsider.
Move to reconsider, perhaps?
Yes, move to reconsider motion.
Consent agenda.
Consent item F, and this is brought up by Councilmember Holland and seconded by Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Holland.
You have to vote on the reconsider.
Oh, hold on, I'm sorry. But we've got a parliamentary action. We need to take a vote on reconsideration of consent item F first. So just go to the vote. Okay. We will vote to reconsider at this point.
Graham.
Councilmember Graham.
Councilmember Smith.
Councilmember Smith.
Holland.
Councilmember Holland.
Brown.
Councilmember Rounds.
Chapman.
Councilmember Chapman.
Plaza.
Councilmember Plaza. All right, motion to reconsider consent item F is passed. So we're just moving it like it's a,
Now we can move to regular.
okay. Authorize exception to late charge policy for utility customers. No, I'm looking for a motion to pass or, as if it's an action item. But
Move
move to
discuss.
reconsider, move to discuss authorize exception to late charge policy for utility customers. We've got, Mrs. Hall, I put words in your mouth. Are you okay with that? I know where you're trying to get to. Okay, by Councilmember Holland, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Holland. Now you're up.
Okay, so we'll be discussing
It's in the packet items.
It is in your packet, Mrs. Rick said. Just so everyone's aware, it is available to see that. Mrs. Rounds. Councilmember Smith?
So they really brought up the instead of the bill, give to us, so I don't know if it cost them or really didn't put it in the mail, so I don't know what happened there, but they're saying they did put it in the mail to come to us. We never got it. They did pay it, but then they didn't pay it instead of putting it in the mail. The balance that was paid. So this would be a refund of $3,041.81. They did not, they were told in February 2018 that they were advised they would not make another payment for 2 years. They were late again.
And then they were late, right?
And then they were, no, they were late again, Mrs. Rick said, stand by,
It was like May of
19.
March
She's
20.
dead. Say that again, Mr. Chapman?
Yeah.
1/16/2020.
and then they were late again in 2019.
They were late a second time in 2019 as well.
They were late on January 2020, and then also in
May
May.
of 2019. May of 2019.
May of
Yes.
2019, there,
That's when they also filed their record.
that's, oh, okay, yeah, so, I know I'm not supposed to be discussing right now, but we're in weird times. So they were late in May of 2019, and was that one waived, Mrs. Rick?
Yes.
That's the one that was waived, and they were told they had a two years.
No,
No, I'm sorry.
February 18, they were told 2 years, and then they were
February
late again in May of 19, and then they were late again in March.
Okay. So they were told that they were late in February of 18 and told they had a 2-year, we'll call it probation period, I guess, and they couldn't be late again. They were late a little over a year after that in May of 19, which they were charged, and then they filed a huge public disclosure request that went back 20 years on the utility department. And then they were late again in March of this year. Did I answer your question, Mrs. Reynolds?
Yes.
Okay.
If they said that they abandoned it, they don't, they do not supposed to work on the ongoing.
We didn't ever get the original.
We never got the original check. Which is yet to arrive, is what I'm hearing. Mrs.
We gave them all kinds of options. Dropping.
Mrs. Rick is indicating that when they were made contact, they were given every possible opportunity for dropping it in the box, paying online with multiple ways, setting up direct debit. They were given all those opportunities, and they chose to mail the check that hasn't arrived yet. Mrs. Graham, you had your hand up?
Yes, well, that's what I said. See, that's what I was. As long as, see about this was a check that they wrote. Had everyone come through, answer the check. Maybe it's a short thing, okay, but, you know, residents, property. So that's, that was, he's not, he hasn't done paperwork yet, but he's done it. So it's crap out.
Chief Coleman's a real stinker. Okay.
Sounds like it's, most of the time,
Mr. Plaza, go ahead.
They wouldn't get it any further
There was no further reversals of fees
in that 2-year period.
in that 2-year period. That was the trade-off.
And we gave one exception because of
Yeah.
the lawsuit.
And we gave one exception due to potential litigation. Correct, for 2 years. May of 2019, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, due
Upon legal.
upon legal advice, due to potential litigation. Correct.
And at this time, we escalated it to the council.
So, yeah, just 1 second. I just want to, Mrs. Rick said, and that's why this conversation's been elevated to the council decision at this point. Okay. Okay. Just to clarify from Mrs. Ripp, we were waiving the late fee for those that were making payment arrangements. And the note of the COVID, I understand what you're saying about that, so we're waiving those ones that have made payment arrangements. And this came before the COVID emergency occurred. Mr. Smith.
So yeah, I was just gonna clarify that too. This was back in December. And they've already made it. This would be reimbursing the back. They've already made it.
So there's no late fee that they would be reimbursed for.
Correct.
For the February,
For the February bill.
or December, or February. And so, will we need an amendment?
Stand by.
We'll need an amendment to the motion, because they were doing discussion, so they would need a motion to either approve or deny.
Just 1 second.
If somebody wants to make a motion to amend, to approve or deny.
Okay. So make an amendment and then go for the vote. Okay.
Vote on the amendment and vote.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
So right now, the motion is to discuss.
Okay, gotcha. So further discussion on this before we go into, I think Mr. Chapman had something. Mr. Chapman. Yes, same property. Yeah. Mr. Plaza. it was December through February usage, and the bill was due in February. No, I'm sorry.
It was billed in February,
It was-
due in March.
Billed in February, due in March. Where'd you go on? Okay, where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Mrs. Holland?
So, just so I can, so I'm using previous sales tax, clarification, that's why the record
That's correct. Mr. Randolph, would you like to weigh in? Okay, thank you. Mr. Boyce, did you have something to add? I saw you unmute yourself.
I was just thinking that this, we want to go forward into what's occurring in that time period. We might want to go into executive session. It was I'd see the city attorney's recommendation that it was due to the litigation clause as far as exemptions from public meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Let's say if we're gonna give them a break, we could also do it in the 2-year time frame of this, but we hold the money for the 2 years, and if they're late, they don't get that back. So we don't actually reimburse housing until the end of 2 years.
Is that something that's possible? Okay. That's absolutely a path forward.
Put the money in the deposit account.
We put it into the deposit account,
Yeah, we'll move it over our utility.
so we'll move it to our utility account. Kind of like, it would be kind of like a deposit.
So it wouldn't stay on credit on the bill and then they'd short pay.
Okay. Are you asking me to? Do you think it? Okay. Council? Just give me some, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of you video-wise. If you-
Make a motion to do that then?
Amendment?
So what I'm looking for now, if you guys are done discussing, we'll need an amendment because the motion on the floor is to discuss consent item F. So I will need some direction on what you want us to do with action or consent item F. Move to approve, move to
With-
deny, move
With
to
condition,
do something with the money.
Can we move to approve the motion with an amendment that they'll get the reimbursement, or they'll get the refund after 2 years of not being meetings?
Okay. That's a, yes? Is that your motion on the floor?
That'd be my motion.
Okay. Oh, we got a lot of seconds on that one. All right, we're gonna give it to Mrs. Rounds, though. She beat y'all to the punch there. So motion on the floor by Mr. Smith, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Motion on the floor to approve with the, move to amend.
first amendment, and then the final one.
Okay. To amend consent item F to approve with a non-late fee in 2 years, and this amount will be returned. Okay. Close, I know I'm close. Councilmember Smith.
I think that's what, yeah, I think you got it.
Okay. No, discussion, sir. Discussion on the amendment. Chief, stop laughing. Okay. Councilmember Rounds. Further discussion.
So we'll vote on the amendment, and then we'll come back to the entire one.
Okay. Further discussion. Okay, seeing none, you are voting on the amendment at this time. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Plaza.
Councilmember Plaza.
Chapman.
Councilmember Chapman.
Graham.
Councilmember Graham.
Rounds.
Councilmember Rounds.
Holland.
Councilmember Holland. Councilmember Smith. All right, moving on to consent item F. No, sorry.
Well, then you're voting on the entire motion.
Now we're-
To,
Approve that to be put into the deposit account. Okay, so the next vote is going to be following through
main motion with the.
main motion with amendment. So the amendment's been made, the money will be retained for a period of 2 years in return if no late payment fees or if no late payment fee occurs within 2 years. Moved by Councilmember Rounds, second by Councilmember Plaza. Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Plaza. Further discussion. Seeing none, will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Smith.
Councilmember Smith.
Plaza.
Councilmember Plaza.
Graham.
Councilmember Graham.
Chapman.
Councilmember Chapman.
Holland.
Councilmember Hall.
Rounds.
Councilmember Rounds. All right, the motion has passed. Any, come to the portion of the agenda for adjournment. Moved by Councilmember Rounds, second by Councilmember Smith. All in favor say aye. Mrs. Coleman, you don't get a vote. I'll say nay. Seeing none, it is 8:35. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Go wash your hands. Bye.
You know, you have to end your meeting.
Oh, do I stop recording first? It stopped recording.